For many of us, the first time we are introduced to superannuation is when we get our first job. We remember receiving a lot of information and filling in a lot of forms, but not many of us understand what it all means. If you want to be proactive about your superannuation and evaluate how well your super fund is doing, there are a few things you can consider. One is returns, and the other is fees and costs. It is important to consider fees relative to returns when evaluating similar products. Let's first have a look at fees and costs. Typically, the lower the fees and costs you pay, the higher the amount you will have available for your super fund to invest on your behalf. There are many different types of fees and costs. One important cost is the indirect costs. This is what a super fund charges for managing your investment, and is given as a ratio, or percent, of the money you have invested in your superannuation. When choosing a super fund, you should be aware high fees and costs can eat away at your savings. Fees and costs can vary between different super fund providers, and between the different investment options offered by a super fund provider. A high fee or cost does not necessarily guarantee a product with all the bells and whistles. Conversely, a low fee or cost does not necessarily mean an inferior product. Now, let's have a look at returns. This is the income that you will receive, and it depends on your super fund balance, how well your super fund manages your money, and the fees and costs the super fund charges. For the indirect costs levied to manage your investment, normal industry practice is for this to be charged as a percentage of your super fund balance, and not based directly on the performance of the super fund. However, thinking about how much fees and costs have reduced the income generated may help you to better appreciate the return that you are getting from your super fund. Remember, when comparing the performance of different products, always consider returns relative to fees and costs charged. When comparing super fund products, it is essential to know the risk of the products that you are comparing and the investments that the super funds make for these products, so that when you are making those comparisons, you are comparing like to like. When thinking of how well a superannuation investment will perform in the future, you should be aware that past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance. That is, you should not be choosing funds based solely on their past performance. The future performance of similar super products is influenced by the fee and costs charged by the different providers. Other things being equal, a dependable predictor of future super fund performance is fees and costs. How much you have in your super fund will determine the kind of lifestyle you'll have when you stop working. When comparing the past performance of different products, remember to always consider returns relative to fees and costs. Also, past returns are not a reliable indicator of future returns. And when choosing between similar products offered by different providers for future investment, remember that fees and costs are a dependable predictor of future super fund performance. By carefully choosing funds with comparatively low fees and costs, you may end up with a bigger nest egg for your retirement.